Well, good evening. It's Monday, February 10th, 2025. Welcome to episode 98 of Porterhouse and Teal Live. And starting out the day, had a lot of things going on around here. Wasn't really feeling in the mood to do a live stream tonight. However, when I was out on my run today, it kind of occurred to me, something that I know and I kind of live by. And that is consistency is key. And so I just thought to myself, you know what? Why don't we go on tonight and we'll do a live stream and, see how it goes? Because I really do think that it's important to do things even when you don't feel completely enthusiastic about it at the start of the day. It's very much like that when I'm running a lot of times where I'll be like, I don't want to be out in this cold weather. I don't want to be out in the wind like it was today, super windy, super cold. And starting out, you're not really that enthusiastic about what you're doing out there at the time. But always by the end of getting completed with something, you just feel better about yourself. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm not going to try to make any excuses as to why I shouldn't come on here tonight and we do a live stream. So Here we are. And I want to welcome a few folks that are already here. So thank you for joining us. Without Training Wheels and Skane's Girl and Bill Warner. Good evening this evening. Hope you guys are doing well.
Yes, good evening.
Yeah. So Rebecca, what have you been up to? Why don't you tell me how things are going with you?
Well, today actually kind of started out as a crazy day for me. It seemed like nothing was going to go right. Because I don't go to work, I don't necessarily think about what day it is.
Of course you work. You work around here all day.
Well, I work around here all day, but it's not like I got to go and punch a time clock.
Right.
And so I don't think about what day it is. And time was kind of dragging on. And I thought, it's Monday. I have to go deliver eggs. And of course, just getting everything together and get out the door and not forget something. And anyway, so I made it out. Yeah. Got the package mailed off, got the eggs delivered.
Yeah. We haven't actually spent any time talking today. So this is like the first time we've sat down and talked. I've been doing kind of some things outside and she's been pretty active around here doing things. So this is the first chance we've had to kind of sit down and share a few words together. Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You mentioned mailing a package off and we want to thank
Sylvia Gibson.
Yeah, that's right. We mailed it off to Sylvia and she bought some comfrey and she had purchased some soap from us and comfrey in the past. And she placed another order and just letting her know that it's on its way. We got that out the door today and thanks for the support. Yes. Comfrey is, I'm telling you, it's a pretty cool plant. Most homesteaders should probably think about, or at least consider having some, just for the fact that it does have a lot of different things that it can do for you. Not only medicinally, you can make different salves and poultices and things like that to help with, injury that you may have. But also one of the things that I use it for a lot is feeding livestock. I'll feed it to my sheep. I'll feed it to my cows. And it's something that's pretty prolific. So once you have it established, it's something that, you really only have to buy one time. And, if you buy it and get it in the ground, it's going to keep growing for you. And then you can start digging it up and replanting it elsewhere. And so it's a good thing to have.
Yeah. One of the things I did forget to tell you is that when I delivered the eggs, they gave us a bag of produce for the animals.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that's a nice little exchange that we have. We give them eggs at a pretty right price because right now here in California, eggs are just going through the roof. And
they're expensive.
Yeah, what are they, $8 to $10 or something for?
Yeah.
And so we don't change the price on the people that do business with us for that reason. I mean, obviously we could sell it for a lot more, but we just choose to, kind of support local business and keep them in flushing eggs. And so what did we get this week from the chickens, if you know, or what are we getting every day?
We ended up this week getting probably about 5 dozen. I think we actually, in Red Bluff, we did have a day that we had some snow,
Mm-hmm.
and that kind of slowed the chickens down. I think that fogged their brain a little bit. I don't know.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. I was not expecting to look out and see big old fat flakes falling, and it wasn't anything that stuck around for any amount of time. It did stick in a few places. It didn't really stick here, but some of the places in town had snow that stayed for maybe an hour and then it went away. But yeah, that's something that just does not happen here very often. So it's kind of a unique thing. However, they are calling for the next storm to come in a chance of rain/snow. So we are experiencing some colder temperatures here in the northern Sacramento Valley.
Yeah, it's always different. It's kind of exciting. Part of you wishes it would stick a little bit, but
yeah,
not to the point where you have to go out and shovel it for those who have snow.
Right. Yeah. What's up, Brady? Good to see you tonight, man. Brave Sig's in the house. And Bill Warner says that his pigs love comfrey. That isn't something that I've fed to our pigs, but I'm assuming they'll eat it. Pigs will eat anything. It's pretty disgusting, man. Actually, I had I think it was a mourning dove or something that got in the pig pen and it got stuck into the fencing and it died. And I kicked it off while I was cleaning the pen, not expecting that the pigs were going to run over there and start munching on the damn thing. But they like ran over when I kicked it. I'm, sweeping up in the pen and I didn't realize it. And I looked back over and they've got the feathers hanging out of its mouth and they're just going to town on this mourning dove, so they'll eat anything, man.
They have terrible table manners.
Yeah, we are probably going to be getting some pigs here at the end of this month. I made contact with the person that we get our pigs from because we're going to raise a pig. Well, I'm going to raise all three of the pigs here, but one's going to go to my daughter and son-in-law, and then the other one is going to be raised for my son and his family, and then we're going to keep one of the pigs. And so what I do is I raise them here. I'll do all the animal husbandry, the feeding of them, and everything as far as making sure that they get processed. But we'll split the cost of the animals. We'll split the cost of the feed. And how I manage the feed is I do it by bulk. It's just a smarter way to go rather than running down to Tractor Supply. And that's something I wanted to mention because this week I wound up going down and getting probably what will last us a year worth of chicken feed for our chickens. And it comes from a mill. It takes me about an hour and 15 minutes to drive one way and then drive back. And so it's a little bit of a time commitment, a little bit of a fuel cost, but it's totally worth it because the savings, from the standpoint of what you can get plus the quality of the product, it's far superior than what you're going to get for the cheapest feed you can get at Tractor Supply. So for example, Tractor Supply, at least in our area, it's about $20 per 50 pounds. And that's for the the low quality Do More layer feed. It's your 16% layer feed. That's about the lowest quality layer feed you can get, but it's about $20 a bag. And when you break down the cost of what I'm getting in the bulk, it comes out to $15 a bag. So it's right off the top, it's a 25% savings per 50 pounds or, throughout the totality of the amount that I get, which is a ton at a time. And then I break that ton down and I put it into olive barrels that will hold 400 pounds each. And so 5 of those barrels will, hold a ton. And right now, I've still got about 800 pounds out there to offload, but I started yesterday getting that stuff offloaded. But one of the things that's really nice about it is the quality of the feed is far superior than what you're going to get for that Do More feed that you're going to get at Tractor Supply.
So I think you should pull up Skane's Girl's comment.
Okay.
It was the one close to the bottom.
Okay.
Go up one.
Let's see.
I like it. No. Yeah.
Rebecca, you need the matching Free Woman hoodie. Free Woman. Do they have a Free Woman? That's funny. She's got one that's just like this. She's got her own.
It doesn't say woman on it though. It says a free man.
No, but I mean, it's, whatever, I guess. Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You want a woman? Pencil it in over there. Right. Michelle Ogilby Flores. How are you doing, Michelle? Hope things are well for you. And welcome to our live tonight.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Let's see here. Okay. Yeah. Bill says that he also chop and drops it on his asparagus bed. Yeah. It's a great mulch. It's a great chop and drop, very nutrient dense. And so to put it on top of something as a mulch, it's just going to take that nutrient that it pulled up from deep within the soil. It puts it into their leaves. The leaves break down and, puts it right back into the soil. So yeah, that's a good idea. Definitely, Bill. And he says they will eat your moles and gophers as a supplement of protein. What will?
Pigs?
Oh, gosh, damn it. Yeah, that's gnarly. I was actually out in the planting onions today. It's onion planting time here on the homestead. I like to get my onions in the week or right around Valentine's Day here in zone 9A. And so that's just a good benchmark for me. Onions are about a 4.5 month crop. So sometime around June 15th or so, you'll be getting to the point where they're maturing well enough where you can start to harvest. So it just depends on how much, heat that we've had and how their development takes shape with the water that you wind up giving them and all of that, those kind of factors. But generally speaking, about 4.5 months. And so I've probably put in about, if I had to guess, probably about 225 thus far. And I've probably got about another 125 little starts to put into the ground. And, that should hold us pretty good next year. We made the mistake this year of not freeze drying it, but that's something that we're going to do this next year so that we don't run out of onions, because we ran out of onions and I grew like 170 pounds. And there's no reason we should have run out of onions, but there is some spoilage that occurs unless, you're able to keep it 50 degrees or thereabouts, and we weren't able to do that. We don't have cold storage. So
you could get out there and dig us a basement underneath the house.
I could, and I don't have to use a shovel as you're implying. I've got a backhoe, but I'm not probably going to get underneath. I'm not going to do that, huh? No, I'm not getting underneath the house with a shovel. I'm not doing that. Yeah, it's not happening. Let's see here. Free woman hoodie. Awesome.
I'll have to check into those.
Mm-hmm.
Might have to create one.
Yeah, they might already have one. Who knows? Bill Warner says, I used to feed my American guinea hogs the waste from my meat rabbits, also any waste from my processed chickens. American guinea hogs. Yeah, I don't know much about those, but I've heard people raising them. So,
do you remember when one of our daughters caught that wild pig?
I do.
That little piglet?
I do.
Yeah.
I do. That was crazy. And he looked wild as could be, but he was tiny. And we have a hog pen out there with hog panels on it. And I thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to raise this damn thing. And so I put it in there and, gave it some food. It didn't want to have anything to do with it. And it basically just kind of paced like for a while. And then it finally settled down. And the interesting thing was I looked out of this window right here that you see, looks out to the south toward our pig pen. And I looked out in the morning to check to see if he was there. And I swear to you, at that very moment, that pig, I saw him turn sideways and squeeze through the hog panel, and he was gone. And I thought, that little son of a gun. But yeah, it was crazy. Like just at that very moment, I actually saw it, witnessed him do that. And but we were going to raise him, but he was not intent.
He wasn't having it.
He was not having it at all. And actually, was it 2 years ago? We got a pig, It was like a Berkshire, a little
Yeah.
little Berkey gilt. We went up north, my son and I, and we went and we got this pig and we drove it back, and I put it out in the pig pen, and I didn't see it actually climb out, but I know it climbed over hog panel. Like
it had to.
It got in the corner because that's exactly where I saw the mud on the corner where it makes a right angle, right? It's a big rectangle. It's 16 by, or square actually. It's 16 by 16 square. And it got into the corner and it like scaled up the hog panel and went up and over. And I saw where the footprints hit right there. And then it rooted its way all the way up the property line and was gone.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's out there now living with the rest of the feral hogs. That's something we have around here quite a bit. Fortunately, they don't end up in our front yard often. That has happened in the past.
It has happened.
Yeah. But you head a little bit further out west and you just see where they're just rototilling up underneath the oak trees. And it's very common out west. But we're kind of right at that border. But I was kind of pissed about that. So
yeah.
My solution for that was that I got another batch of hog panel and then I went up another layer. So I've got it up 100 inches. It's like, 7 feet tall. And so I figured you get out of that and you deserve to go free.
You deserve to live wild.
You deserve to live wild. But anyhow.
Wild and free.
That's right. Let's see. Without training wheels. Says, I just put together 2 indoor seed shelves. Start this week planting. Yeah, it's a good time to do it, especially if you're thinking about putting in peppers and tomatoes and stuff like that. It might be a little bit early, but probably in another couple of weeks, definitely you can get your indoor starts going for sure. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Good idea.
That's
let's see how much
hopes that gophers don't eat your garlic and onions you planted.
The gophers?
Mm-hmm.
Gophers really don't. It's not really something that they're into. They don't really go for alliums. You can plant things like daffodil, and they don't really mess with them. But what they do like is they like things like tulips. If you are planting bulbs,
I know because we don't have any more.
Yeah, but alyssum, which is daffodil, they don't mess with those. And similarly, they're not really going to dig eating garlic and onion. However, they do pop up in my planting space. And Bill, you're asking how much space does 170 pounds of onions take to grow? I've got a space out there that is, let's see, it's 16 by 20. It's kind of a no-till planting area that I've got several rows in, and I grow all of my garlic and all of my onions in there. So it's about half onion and half. But I would say it takes me like 3.5 rows that are 20 feet long for my onions and about not quite that much for the garlic. And we've still got plenty of garlic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, it's
getting down there. It's
getting down there.
Okay.
It's getting pretty low.
Okay.
I love garlic.
We eat a lot of it. It's a great herb. It's so good for you.
I'm assuming it's the Italian in me.
Yeah. I love it too. So it must be the Italian in me.
Oh yeah.
Right.
I see that.
Right. Okay. Skanes Girl says, my sweet potatoes decided to sprout. I have 5 boxes. I cut off the ends and planted them. They have clips or slips growing, and I have been canning when I have time. I have 2 boxes left. Yeah, very cool. Very cool. That's something that I should probably try to grow, as I haven't really grown sweet potatoes, but I prefer sweet potatoes over the white starchy potatoes. So
that's what we've been using. A few nights ago, I actually made this soup. It was supposed to be a corn chowder, actually, but because Eric doesn't really care for corn and it calls for potatoes, I would make it more a potato chowder. Mm-hmm. But then when we started this diet and we're not really eating the white potatoes, I substituted it with the sweet potatoes. And instead of the corn, I had put in like a white bean. And anyway, I ended up cooking it. The recipe, for the most part, was the same. Those were the only two substitutes. And then Eric had asked me if I would crumble some bacon on top.
Oh, dude, I'm
And
telling you. It was like, I hope you can replicate that, because that was literally one of the best soups that I've had in a long time. That was so good. It was like if I had to describe it, it was more like what you would expect from a really good lobster, like a lobster bisque or a crab bisque. It had that flavor and that consistency. However, it didn't have any kind of a seafood hint to it. It was just absolutely delicious. And I hope you can try to replicate that. It's probably it's a one and done, right? Is that one that's going to be like, I don't know.
I think so. I think I can pretty much remember what I did.
Man, I hope you can pull that off again, because that was like so good. Unbelievably good.
That's my downfall. I forget to write down when I substitute. I can remember what it was I substituted it with. I don't necessarily can remember the amount of what I substituted it with.
Right. Let's see here. Bill says, thank you. We use a lot of onion. We still have garlic from last harvest that I grew after watching your video on planting garlic. Yeah, that's excellent. A little bit of that goes a long way, garlic. But it's something that we use a tremendous amount of. So I grow quite a bit, and we use a lot of onions too in our cooking. That, she's always, using onions. And unfortunately this year we fell a little bit short. She's actually buying onions now in the store. And I would just prefer that we don't have to do that, because I've got the space. I actually grew plenty. So this year we're going to go ahead and freeze dry some of those in our harvest right.
Now he likes them cooked. I can eat them raw. So
yeah, well, I can eat them raw depending on what they're on. If they're on a burger or something, then I'm all about it. But you like the Yukon Golds? Yeah, I like the Yukons as well. Those are really good potato. The one thing that I've noticed with potatoes when you grow your own as well is that it's kind of like how people say, oh, when you grow your own vegetables, it's it's night and day. Well, that's true with some vegetables, and others are a little less noticeable. But potatoes are one of those things that, for me, when you just harvest it and you cook a fresh potato, it's like night and day. It's like, wow, that's really incredible.
That's the same way with your meat. When you grow your own meat, as opposed to buying, say, hamburger, there's a huge difference in the flavor.
Yeah.
Huge.
Yeah. And Skane says, I've got some garlic growing that I got from Midwest Preparedness Project Seed Exchange. It isn't normal garlic. I hope that's good normal.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's see.
A mutation of something.
Yeah. Cindy says that I do that, but when I do write it down, it still doesn't come up quite the same. I don't know why.
I'm with you. Sorry.
Yeah. Let's see. Also too, I picked up some strawberries finally, and I picked up about 50 of them, and started to get those into the ground. Some bare root strawberries. I want to probably get some more, but this is just kind of the first batch, and I got a few in the ground. I'm going to plant some more probably tomorrow. But it's a good thing to have as a ground cover. I like the ever-bearing varieties of strawberries because they're going to be a little smaller than what you're going to get from a June-bearing strawberry, but they will be more prolific. They're going to continue to produce throughout the year, or at least throughout the season, I should say. They don't really do much in the wintertime, but you'll get several different harvests off of that particular plant. And the ones that I also like and I look for are ones that send out many runners, so that they will continue to spread out in that particular location, and they're going to replant themselves. So they'll send out a runner with a whole nother plant on it, and it just basically sits on the ground, and it'll strike root, and then it'll just kind of spread out as ground cover. And so the variety that I just got is called Albion. And so I bought some of those last year, and I was happy with them. So I'm doubling down on that for my strawberries.
Yeah, and that'll be nice if our granddaughter doesn't strip us clean.
Yeah, I know. She loves the fresh fruit. So you think that grass-fed is the difference? Grass-fed beef, total difference. Yeah. I haven't never really been a huge fan of the grass-fed beef. I prefer it actually finished with a little bit of corn. But that's just my personal preference. I know a lot of other people really are into grass-fed beef. It's obviously going to be more, healthier for you than eating it with corn. But corn for me, it just helps with the palatability of it. And just with that intermuscular fat, the flavor of it for me is just better. And I prefer that. But grass-fed beef obviously is fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
It's way better than what you're going to find in the store. That's for sure.
We thought Training Wheel says she loves strawberries.
Oh man. Yeah. I love berries to begin with. And I picked up I should probably look at getting a few more berry plants while they're still bare root so I can get those in, because what I'm doing is planting them on the backside of the chicken yard opposite my grapes. So they're going to grow up the fence line, and then I'll have grapes on one side and then berries on another. So, I love them as well.
So do the chickens.
They do. So much as the store veggies are devoid of any nutritional value. I think that there's probably a lot less than what you would get if you're growing your stuff in really good soil and not utilizing any BS in it.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of pesticides and stuff that's put into the stuff that you get out of stores. So there's also a lot of genetically modified crops that are made to withstand the herbicide application. And so the more that you can grow of your own, the better. And then what you can't grow, it's, in my opinion, so much better if you can source things that are organic. At least you have somewhat of a fighting chance not to be eating something that's laden heavily with pesticides and genetically modified shit.
Even that, if it's a canned product, you still need to read the label, even if it says organic on it, because there's a lot of stuff that still gets tossed in.
Right.
Those.
False advertising, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I just, actually, Eric will be eating it tonight, made the green enchilada sauce. And so that was pretty nice. I think it tasted pretty much like store-bought.
It was good. Yeah. Bill says we make fire cider, garlic butter, and garlic paste. It's a little time consuming, but well worth it. I grew sweet potatoes and harvested about 70 pounds that we used the last of last month. And here's a very key thing that you just said, which is it's a little time consuming, but well worth it. Most things that are time consuming, generally speaking, are worth it. Nobody wants to put in the work. They always want the end product. And so a lot of times you're going to sacrifice quality, or you're going to sacrifice something when it's not that time consuming, because corners will be cut. And so we were just talking about this the other day about how, things used to be for her growing up as opposed to me, where I was more of a latchkey kid. She was more of, had a mom that stayed at the house that baked bread and did a lot of things, making food, from scratch like it used to be done. And at some point that transitioned into this idea that, we need a 2 household income. And there was a lot more convenience foods that were brought into the market. Like, hey, you can just pop this into the microwave, and you can just pull this out of the freezer and throw it into the oven, and all those things they come with a cost, and the cost is all the bullshit they put in that food. It's just not as good for you. I mean, that's the reality of it. You look at the back of the list and there's all those things on there, the preservatives. That's what we're feeding our kids. That's what we're feeding ourselves. And so to do it the right way, like it used to be done for ever up until a certain point in time. Yeah, it took longer to cook things from scratch, but the end product was always better, in my opinion.
I don't think my mom ever bought frozen potatoes or anything. We had a drawer that you could pull out and it had potatoes in it. It was the potato drawer. And I know this because I was short, couldn't reach things out of the cabinet. So I would always pull that drawer out so I could stand on it so I could reach into the cabinet and get what I needed.
Yeah. Yeah.
That was the starting of my climbing.
Yep. Yeah. And to your point here, Bill, it says there's a pretty long list of chemicals that's allowed even for organic food. I think that that's probably true, and anytime that you're relying on others to produce your food, which, I don't know anybody who's growing all of their stuff or doesn't get things from the store. We're all kind of doing that. But, the more that you can look at trying to see what's a little bit closer to what it would be if I grew it, if you can make decisions based on that, then it's going to be probably a better way to go. But I do agree with you that I think that there are things that are put into organic food that you might even be looking at the label and it says organic, but yet they're still able to maybe do certain things with it, because it's all has to get certified, but what's permissible in that list of certifications,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, point taken. Bill Zegley's in the house. Welcome, Lewisburg, Tennessee. How are you this evening? Hope you're well. He says that he just got his computer back this afternoon, went down last week, so reestablishing all my links and such. Yeah, that's always fun. It kind of reminds me of what I'm gonna have to do when I get a new phone, which is gonna have to happen soon. Rebecca keeps telling me, you got to go down and get a phone. You got to get a phone, and which I do.
Well, explain what happened when we were coming back from your race.
What do you mean, the back falling off of it?
No, the screen going black.
Oh, we talked about that last week, I think already. But it's old and it needs to be replaced, which is I'm going to do. However, the reason I haven't is because I've got content on there that I'm hoping to finish up with. And I don't want to lose any of that content as I'm switching over from one phone to the next.
But he's getting the stripes down the side, and I'm afraid they're going to cover up the hole.
They're not the problem. The problem is that when the phone just decides it wants to, not work anymore, then I'm kind of hosed. But it'll happen soon. But yeah, I feel for you, Bill. Yeah. Yeah, there was one of those tip out drawers like that in my grandma's kitchen, Rebecca. She had flour in the front and potatoes in the back. Yeah, I remember those kind of, they rotated out or whatever. I never had one in our house because our house was built in 1970 and it wasn't something that was put into that vintage of house. But I do remember we had one of those Lazy Susan things that went around, this way.
On the table.
Yeah, but we had those in the fire stations because the fire stations were built back in the day.
Well, our house was built in 1927.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, that's an old house. It's an old house. You also made some soap here last night, did you not?
I did. I made some soap.
Right.
I'm curious to see how it turns out since I just took it out of the mold, but we had a visitor come. Our oldest daughter came to visit. Mm-hmm. And one of the things that she's always said is that she'd like to make some soap with me. And so her timing was perfect.
Yeah.
She kind of hung out and helped out with that a little bit.
Yeah, that's awesome. That was a good use of time. And I'm sure she enjoyed doing that. So we'll have to
I from that, I'd like to make some more and kind of come up with some different fragrances.
Right. Yeah, I think the only thing that we've got on the site right now is just the biochar and then your coffee soap, which is my favorite. But yeah, I think you were going to start working on some different things, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. That and I've gotten into doing our own seasoning, like our chili seasoning, taco seasoning. Instead of buying the packets, I've been making our own. So I'd like to do more of that and get that going.
Yeah. Yeah, it's cool. I would rather have my wisdom teeth pulled again. Craftsman, grower, fixer, not tech geek. Yeah, I gotcha. I gotcha.
I'd have to say I'm not a tech geek either.
No, I'm not. I'm not so techy. And without training, Will says, even if the screen dies, they can usually transfer files. However, they are lazy and ask for it to be on the cloud. Yeah, there may be a way to do that, but you're right. You go in there and they're like, well, it's a black screen. What do you want me to do? I can't even, access the thing or whatever. I'm sure there's a way to do it. I'm sure that, if Elon Musk had his hit squad on there, they could probably figure out how to get into my phone. There's a way to do that, but the dumbasses down at Verizon that are making minimum wage, they're not going to go through the extra steps, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Speaking of Mr. Musk, it's been 3 weeks since Trump's been in office now, and things are continually moving pretty fast. And both Trump and Elon have caused quite a stir. I think the argument that has been made from the Democrat side is that Elon's making all these decisions, yet nobody has elected him. And he's basically an unelected bureaucrat, as they're referring to him as. And I would say, Rebecca, what is your argument for those that are making that claim?
Well, I would have to agree with you. Nobody elected Dr. Fauci either.
No, that's true. There's plenty of people in positions that are not elected. He is basically a staffer, as it's been explained,
Mm-hmm.
who's working under the direction or at the pleasure of the president who was elected. And so, there's a lot of things that are probably going to have to work themselves out in the courts, but Trump is definitely moving very fast. Here's one of the arguments in favor of what's taking place in the Trump administration from one of those staffers.
Democrat use of the term unelected is really quite remarkable here. Donald Trump was elected in an overwhelming landslide. These are Donald Trump staffers. In the sense, like saying that Mike Walls, the national security advisor, is unelected, or Susie Wiles, the chief of staff, is unelected, or Donald Trump's communications team is unelected. This is presidential staff that serves at the pleasure and for the president, just as I do. I am a staffer for the president of the United States. He is elected. He is the one the American people have chosen to implement his agenda. This is the agenda the American people voted for, that he is asking his staff, his subordinates, his employees to implement. The unelected power in this country is the rogue bureaucracy. USAID is unelected. The FBI that persecuted President Trump for 8 years is unelected. The CIA and those who have laundered intelligence to try to change the foreign policy of the United States are unelected. President Trump is restoring democracy by controlling the federal bureaucracy. There is one man in the country who is elected by the whole American people to implement an agenda they support. That is the president. Every other officer in this country, members of Congress and senators, are elected at the state or local level.
Let me ask you.
The Constitution puts one man in charge of the federal executive branch, and that's the president.
I understood.
Texas Republic Company, welcome this evening. And your response, where you say, I see that argument as a red herring and unworthy of a response from those that would make it. Dr. Fauci was a good example. It's legal, constitutional, and there's nothing they can do about it. I would say this, that, this is all going to get sorted out here at some point. I know personally for myself, I'm very much in favor of what's taking place. And I hope that Trump has the ability as the executive in his position to make some of these cuts, because I think that needs to be able to happen in order for our country to be restored in some way, from the standpoint of all of this corruption that's clearly taking place. And I just think that it's going to play itself out here shortly. I mean, obviously there's been challenges to it thus far. and we were talking about it a little bit ago, but both of us worked for the government, and for whatever reason, you're not able to just go in and tell a person, hey, you're fired. It's pretty hard to get rid of government employees that are unionized without cause, right? And you can make the argument that the cause is that, you're not needed because your job is a fluff job. But, I don't know how this is all going to play out, to be quite honest, because there is all of those things I just mentioned, the unions, right? People have, it's amazing to me how you don't have as much power to just terminate people.
I would agree with you working with the state. However, when we did take in our one son, what that basically left me was, it was a conflict of interest. So I was told I had this amount of time and I had to quit.
Okay.
So they actually could get rid of me.
Yeah, but there's no conflict of interest here. Trump's just saying, hey, we're going to give you a buyout. We're going to give you 8 months severance, and you can go look for another job, or you can come in and work, right? And for the ones he's telling to come back. But some of these people are just basically going to be told you're no longer needed. And so we're going to see how it's going to play out. I hope that they have the ability to just tell people, hey, you're not needed. But I'm just telling you, man, it's not going to be as easy as I think people think it is. Right now, he's like a bull in a china closet, and he's just making shit happen, and it's freaking people out. Right.
He's got a pretty smart attorney, and
I'm sure he's got a team of attorneys.
Yes.
All these rich people that are billionaires do.
And there are ways to navigate and that we don't know about.
Mm-hmm.
That maybe his staff actually are able to pull those strings, and he is able to. I don't know. This is all hypothetical.
Right. It's gonna go to the Supreme Court, because what you have now is you have lower courts that are sticking their nose into this and saying you don't have the ability to do this, and those decisions are going to probably put a roadblock into things until it gets appealed and taken further on up, and a decision will have to be made whether or not he has the ability to do the things that he's doing. And I do think that in some sense that's a good thing, that we have to have checks and balances on the executive branch. That's why we have 3 branches of government. Think about it from the other standpoint. This is just the same as Joe Biden coming in and saying, hey, we're going to do everything the opposite of you, because essentially that's what's going to take place unless the Republicans in Congress can put forth some legislation and pass some legislation that will make some of these changes that Trump is doing permanent, right? Things like the transgender, the bill or the executive order that was just put forth the other day, that's going to be overturned in 4 years if Gavin Newsom has the opportunity to sit in that chair. So the Republicans need to get their shit together and coalesce their power at this point and put some things into legislation and get them passed, or none of this is going to matter when because it's just going to be undone. And so what happens with regard to USAID, and what happens with the Treasury, and what happens with the Department of Education, and what happens with all of these different bureaucracies within our government, it's going to be determined. It's going to go to court. That's how it's going to take shape, right? Because they're going to start fighting, and they already are starting to fight, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So I say we just have to wait and figure out what's going to happen. But maybe there is a way around it. And if he does give them an ultimatum and they quit, well, they quit. He didn't fire them. So.
Right. But you know what can also happen with that again is, Trump comes in, I'm closing down this, I'm doing whatever. And that USAID is something that was put into, established via legislation into law, that agency. And so for him to undo that again, sounds good to me. I'm in favor of it because it sounds like it is a pretty corrupt way of funneling money to different programs that most of us probably don't support. I think that there's maybe 20% of those funds are going to what they should be going to, and probably 80%, the other portion of it, or maybe even more, is just a bunch of pet bullshit projects that people are funneling money around to. And I'm sure that happens in just about every one of these governmental departments and agencies. Mm-hmm. There's a ton of waste because it's not their money, right?
Well,
hey, Hogs 14, how are you doing this evening? Glad to see you.
You'd like to say it's not their money, but it seems to make it into their pockets.
Yeah. Bill Warner, yep. The White House does have a very complex team of lawyers. There's lawyers on both sides are lining up, I'm sure, to make arguments and to try to get this sorted out, because people are being told, hey, you don't work here anymore. But hey, I've worked here for 20 years and I've been doing a good job. I don't have anything in my file that indicates that I was a substandard employee, and all of a sudden I come to work and they're scraping the fucking letters off the building. Well, how does that make sense? I got a family to feed, right? I'm not saying I disagree with that, because if they're not needed, they're not needed, and we need to do away with the program. But you have to look at it from the standpoint of, how that's going to all play out when they're unionized, which I don't even agree with. I don't think that federal and state employees should be in a fucking union. That's my personal opinion. Mm-hmm. I was never a part of the union when I was, here's the thing. They made you be a part of the union. Even if you didn't want to be a part of the union with your union dues, you had to pay what was called fair share. And that's what came out of your check. I had a little thing that said union dues, FS, fair share. And you know what that meant? Instead of paying $80, and this is just a figure I'm throwing at you, instead of paying $80 for your union dues monthly, you would pay $78 if you were fair share. So you're saving $2, and then you don't get any representation. So they basically make it so that what are you going to do? Okay, I guess I'm in the union. Well, I was like, yeah, fuck you guys. Yeah, whatever, man. Mm-hmm. I'm not paying it.
Yeah, well, I was in the union as well. Yeah. It wasn't an option.
Right. So, anywho, Texas Republic Company says it needs to be resolved in the courts. Ultimately, I think it will stand that firing them, even if it is a unionized setting, working for the federal government, will be upheld over the long run. I hope you're right. Seriously, I hope you're right, because it's not being done at the lower levels. It's, the legislature, right? The Congress is the ones who are supposed to be doing this. This is what's so disingenuous about these people, because now they're all out there saying, look at all this waste, fraud, and abuse. Where the fuck were you for the last 20 years of your career? That's your job in Congress. House Oversight Committee. That's your job, is to point out and be a whistleblower and say, look, we're not funding this. But all of a sudden now they got balls, right? They got big balls, as they've been saying. Right? Now they're going to step forward to the mic and start talking shit like they're going to do something, only because there's one man, Donald Trump, who has drugged their sorry asses in his direction. That's what's taking place here. All these people, lames. Yeah.
The man does not sleep.
Who? Trump?
Yeah.
No, none of them do. Elon as well, man. These guys are not taking a salary. Think about that. They're not taking a salary to do their job. Trump's like, yeah, it's going back in the treasury, man. I don't need it. I'm a rich man. I'm doing this because I love my country. Same with Elon. Hey, I don't, whatever, man. I'm the richest dude and I'm sitting here sleeping in Washington to get this done, because he cares about the future of this country more so than he cares about grifting some fucking money so that he can line his own pockets. And you can make the argument that, oh, well, you know what, he's doing this and he's gonna benefit from it in some way. Yeah, so is Trump. Because when they succeed, when they get our country healthy again, we're all gonna succeed. You're gonna grow you're gonna grow the pie so that more people get a chance to have a pie of their own instead of cutting the pie down into smaller pieces. We're all gonna succeed when they are able to do what they're going to do. You know, and the one thing that I've noticed that's kind of interesting to me, quite honestly, is there's a lot of people who I know are pretty anti-Trump and they're pretty liberal, right?
Yeah.
And I'm talking about people on Instagram. I have an Instagram account and I don't really post anything political there. I don't even express, my political leanings one way or the other, because that's not what that channel is for. It's basically a place where I can kind of display my athletics and put forth some inspiration for others. And I also derive inspiration from people that I follow on there. That gets me motivated to get out the door and lace up my shoes and go for a run. And so I don't really, delve into politics, but I know some people do. And I kind of just more or less disregard it. But one thing that I've noticed recently is they ain't saying a damn thing, even though they want to. I know they do. I know they want to say something, but they're not saying anything. You know why? Because the mood of the public, the mood of this country, for the most part, at least at this point, is like, yeah, let's get down to some of this waste. Let's start looking at some of this fraud and this abuse. Yeah, I'm not cool with just open borders. Yeah, I'm not cool with the fact that we've been, the economy's sucked ass for a long time and it costs a lot to fill up my tank. And everything that's been related to the last 4 years, they're pretty silent right now. And it is pretty interesting for me to see how the public has changed their tune. It's no more evident than what I think you saw at the Super Bowl last night. For those that watched, I did not. I saw clips on TikTok. I saw clips on TikTok. But apparently Taylor Swift got roundly booed and Trump was roundly cheered. And that's a big shift in what's happening in this country right now. Where he's pretty popular right now, but that's going to change as the left mobilizes their forces and gets people riled up and gets them out into the street and starts dragging out all these people that have been separated from their families. And, all of that kind of thing happens. There's going to be a decline in the amount of support that Donald Trump has. He's riding a pretty big wave, but he's only been in office for three weeks. You have to understand.
Yeah, I don't know that he's necessarily separating people from their families, though.
I'm saying hypothetically, he's not doing that, nor is that anything that they've actually said that that's not what they are planning on doing. They will deport the whole fucking family. They're not going to break them apart. We'll deport everybody if you don't have the right to be here. I'm just saying that's the imagery that's going to be put out there. You know it as well as
Correct. They want to make him a bad man.
Right.
So yes.
Right.
They're grabbing on to whatever they possibly can to make him look terrible.
They have not changed their playbook one bit. They're not coming out and saying, hey, this is the Democrat Party and this is what we plan on doing for you. This is where we want to show that, we're here for you. All they're doing is still playing the blame game and pointing the fingers at, look what Elon did. We need to arrest Elon. Look at Trump. Look at this. Look at that. And they're trying to play that game still, but people kind of aren't having it.
I don't know how long that game's actually going to last for them with Elon uncovering all the fraud in his team. I don't mean him just by himself.
Right.
But as they're bringing more and more of that out, they can try to make Trump look terrible. But if he's exposing that, that's kind of hard to.
Right. No, it is. It is. And I'm actually really looking forward to, some more transparency as it relates to this, what they've been uncovering from the D.O.G.E team. And it's one of the reasons why I just recently, this week, I guess started a Twitter account where I don't plan on posting there, but I wanted to follow because I understood that Elon was posting some of the things that are being cut or the things that are being uncovered there. And so I followed him and, some of the subcommittees and shit like that so that I can get a little bit more information on that because I'm interested in it. I don't want to personally go on the computer and waste my time searching this shit. But if they got smart people that are searching this, I kind of want to know. And I think it's important that we understand how we've been manipulated and lied to. And the more this gets uncovered, I think the more people are going to lose a taste for the establishment. But again, I haven't seen anything with any regularity that would suggest, hey, this is what we found.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And I know you keep pushing Gavin Newsom's going to be president, but I don't know.
It doesn't look that way right now. It really doesn't look that way right now, but you have to understand that there is an ebb and flow to politics. We thought 4 years ago Trump was, this doesn't look so good for him, but look at him now. Who would have ever thought that Joe Biden, after running for office for fucking 4 times and getting 1% of the vote, would actually become president? Well, we didn't know what we knew until it happened in 2020. I acknowledge that fully, right?
Mm-hmm.
We didn't see ballots coming out from underneath the table, and we never projected that was going to happen openly. And then
that's like slapping you in the face and saying, "Oh no, you didn't see that."
Exactly. Yeah, the sky's not blue, or put your hand on the stove. That's not hot,
mm-hmm.
right? So just understand, Newsom is very skilled. He sounds fucking great if you don't know, or if you're aligned with that ideology. He sounds fantastic, man. He's really good at talking shit and making it sound good.
And saying nothing.
Yeah, well, he can say stuff and make it sound good. He's not like Kamala, where you can just see the gears not meshing well.
Can you see the gears?
as she's trying to come up with a response. He's not like that. He's very glib. Trying to see comments because
I know my phone
is dead.
Blocked me from it.
It blocked you?
Yeah.
Why'd your phone block you?
I don't know. It won't let me go on Porterhouse and Teal. So.
Huh. Maybe it's harmful content.
It might be.
That's whack. Huh? How's that all? Anyhow, Hog says, you notice they never tell you they did that, but always attack the other side. That's because the last 4 years, they did nothing
but line their pockets.
Yeah. You have to look no further than just the people that are making the most noise right now. There's a lot of people that are out there that are very, very upset at, the fact that somebody would think to cut the size and scope of government, or think to try to get to some form of, hey, how's this money being spent? I think the average American really has an interest in knowing that. It's much like pulling the curtain back, and then you get to see how the sausage is being made and realize, oh, wow, they sent how much to where? That's crazy. Mm-hmm. But yet we can't get things for our people here in this country. Isn't that odd?
Yeah.
And I think as more and more is uncovered, at least that's my hope. I hope some of these people have to pay a hefty price, go to jail, because we really do have a 2-tiered system of justice. When you have Hillary Clinton destroy things on an email server and then nothing happened to her, that's criminal behavior. She's a fucking criminal. And yet she was, given a pass because of who she was. But just imagine the amount of money that's being funneled into the Clinton Foundation, or the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, or any of these places that are dealing with philanthropic, endeavors.
I'm still going to say that as one creepy guy.
He is a creepy guy. He's very, very, he's like a perv.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I could totally see that guy on Epstein Island, right? He's a freak. Is that slanderous? Am I going to get sued for saying something like that? I don't know.
I don't know. You might.
Yeah.
Might get a slap on the back of your hand.
Kelly is now trying to Newsom-proof the state. Yeah, I've got an article on that I was going to pull up. He's actually trying to Trump-proof the state. So I'm not exactly sure what you're referring to, but he's trying to do the exact same thing to California, to Trump-proof. In his words, I guess, right?
Mm-hmm.
TRC says, never underestimate the stupidity of an ignorant person. I work with an overeducated person, claims to be a Catholic with a straight face, and all seriousness stated, I hope they get Newsom to run. Yeah. I mean, there's people like that, man. I'm telling you, there's plenty of people who would look at that guy and say, oh, he's so presidential. And, for people that know or people that don't have that political leaning, it's kind of hard for you to wrap your head around that. But you have to understand there's still people walking around with masks on.
Yeah.
There's still people that are going to their doctor and their doctor tells them, hey, go get, you need to get your booster or you need to get the COVID shot. There's still people going down that road. And so there is no bounds to what people will believe. He's a fucking very gifted snake oil salesman. Let me just say that.
However, I am seeing fewer and fewer of that around.
Yeah, because it's stupid. It's never really a thing. However, to Hoggs' point, who knows? Maybe somebody has, a pre-existing condition or some kind of a comorbidity that's not unrelated to that.
Or maybe they needed to come into work and they had a cold.
Yeah. So U.S. aid is kind of what kicked all this off. I've been talking about it on episode 90, as I mentioned, prior to all of this. And then I talked about it last week as it kind of came to a head. But I really do think that in its inception, it was meant for the right reasons. But unfortunately, it has morphed into something that it was never intended to be. And so I pulled this clip up because I thought you guys might find it interesting to know. This was obviously, as I stated back in episode 90 of its origins, 1961, President John F. Kennedy was something that happened during his administration. And this is him speaking on it, but it's a really good, useful tool as it relates to America and how it expresses its soft power. I think it's important that we have the ability to, for whatever reasons around the world, influence other nations to our benefit, right? Whether that's gaining natural resources from them or getting some kind of concession or a reduction in the amount of conflict around the world. I think that's a great thing. But we have to know that the money that's being spent is well spent. But here's John F. Kennedy in his own words. It might be a little low, so I apologize for that.
The presence of the United States as a leading power in the free world is involved in your work directly. The people who are opposed to aid should realize that this is a very powerful source of strength for us. It permits us to exert influence for the maintenance of freedom. If we were not so heavily involved, our voice would not speak with such vigor. And as we do not want to send American troops to a great many areas where freedom may be under attack, we send you. And you working with the people in those countries to try to work with them in developing the economic thrust of their country so that they can make a determination that they can solve their problems without resorting to totalitarian control and becoming part of the bloc.
Yeah. So there you go. I think there's a place for that sort of use of funds from the government to influence maybe rogue nations and getting them to, comply with certain things. I mean, we do that all the time. We're always purchasing alliances around the world, and we can do that in a variety of different ways. I think that that's a useful tool. However, I think probably when it started, it was more aligned with that. But again, it's morphed away from that probably to more of a 80-20 model, or maybe even a 90-10. So that 10% possibly is going toward that. And then the other 90 is just, it's being siphoned off and used for other interesting projects that most people wouldn't support.
Yeah, well, I'm still going to say that when there's things that happen in our country, that needs to be taken care of before we are supplementing other countries and helping them out.
Mm-hmm. Let me ask you, Rebecca, if you had to give Trump a grade in his first 3 weeks, what grade would you give him?
In my opinion's probably extremely biased, but I would give him an A, possibly an A+.
Okay.
Because he has not wasted time. It's not like he went in and he's dragging his feet and he just went in running.
Right. I would agree with that. I would agree with that with this one exception. I would probably downgrade him to an A-. And the reason that I would give him an A- instead of an A+ is because of his stance that he's taken on Gaza. I don't really support that as an idea. I think that he's kind of overstepping his fucking bounds right there. And what I think will happen is history's going to prove me right, unfortunately. Because every time we've been involved in the Middle East trying to be peacemakers, it's bit us in the ass. And I don't think this is any different. From my standpoint, maybe, he's looking at it from the standpoint of expanding America's footprint into that region so that we can have some long-lasting peace by opening up some kind of a base of operations there. And I fully get that. That could be a possibility of it, but it's only going to, in my way of thinking, I don't think that that's, something that we should be doing at this point in time. I'm not a world leader. I completely could be wrong on that. Maybe he's making a fabulous choice, and it's going to solve all of our problems in the Middle East. And these people are going to actually embrace this strip that's going to become this beautiful piece of land that all peoples of the world can go and live on. Maybe I'm completely wrong, but I don't think that history is going to prove me to be wrong. Your thoughts?
I honestly don't think that his plan is to take it over. I know when he says it, that's what it sounds like that he's talking about. But I think that it's more a bargaining tool for people to help in other countries to rebuild that and make that a better place for the people who are there. I don't think he's going to be taking it away from the citizens who live in Gaza in these rubbles, but an attempt to gather people together to help build this up so it's a better community for these people.
Yeah, he's stated that as much. He said that he wants people of the region, people that live in Jordan, Egypt, some of these other nations that are neighboring. He would love to see them come in on the reconstruction and have a part of that. But he's also stated that he wants to own Gaza and to purchase it. And so, you can read into his own words what you will, but there's nothing like hearing the man's own words.
Take over the Gaza Strip, and we will do a job with it too. We'll own it and be responsible for dismantling all of the dangerous unexploded bombs and other weapons on the site, level the site and get rid of the destroyed buildings, level it out. I do see a long-term ownership position, and I see it bringing great stability to that part of the Middle East and maybe the entire Middle East. Everybody I've spoken to loves the idea of the United States owning that piece of land, developing and creating thousands of jobs with something that will be magnificent.
Yeah, I think he's wrong on that one as far as everybody liking the idea. I can guarantee you that a lot of people that voted for Donald Trump and his America First agenda didn't see that one coming. You know, he didn't campaign on that one. Everything else that he's doing, he campaigned on, and he's following through on it in a very short order. Energy, bringing back jobs to this country, trade, taking care of some of these different trade deficits that, you know, we have with different countries, leveling the playing field as it relates to that, securing the border. These are American first things that he campaigned on. Law and order, getting the drugs off of our street. These are all things that he's working on. So I would give him absolutely an A+ on all of that with him holding his promises. But this is one that I just can't fucking get behind. And, you know, however people want to interpret or read into it, again, this is one of those things that, you know, history will show who's right and who's wrong. But past history hasn't suggested that us being involved in trying to reshape the Middle East has worked to our advantage.
Reed Williams' comments, the bottom one.
Mm-hmm. I think that Trump's stance is to see if an organization like the UN to say they would rather do a group for reconstruction. Yeah, I absolutely think he wants other people involved in the reconstruction. I actually caught his statement on it here within the last couple of days. It might even been yesterday when he was on his Air Force One. He talked again about Gaza when asked. And I think that's what I gathered from it at that point, is that he wants other nations and other entities to be involved in this reconstruction. But he also indicated that he wants to see some kind of somewhat of a permanent occupation or ownership of this piece of land. And so, you know, it is what it is. We'll see how it shapes out. But again, we've got enough things to deal with around here in the United States from my perspective. And so that's why I would take him down a notch to A- on his first 3 weeks. And yeah, he's in real estate, wants things to flourish, but keep it safe, etc. But I think it will be too much. Yeah, I know he's looking at that because he said something about, oh man, this is beautiful real estate, like the ocean and the thing, you know, he's thinking, man, I could put golf courses here and fucking hotels. This is a beautiful piece of land, you know, it's like the Mediterranean or whatever. But from the standpoint of America's interest in that region, having access to that body of water, having a presence there, it makes us a lot more able to engage without having to get authorization from other countries to utilize their airspace, to utilize their access to bringing in, you know, ships or what have you. It would just be something that we own, and we have the ability to do that. And I actually do like his idea of expansionism as it relates to, yeah, why not rename the Gulf of America? It's just rhetoric, but why should it be the Gulf of Mexico? It's the body of water that is right in between the America, North America and South America. It makes more sense to that. Expansion into Canada, probably not going to happen.
Yeah.
I know it's something he wants to see.
I don't know that he necessarily wants to see that happen. I think he just likes to be a little thorn in the side with it.
Yeah, I think that's probably his take, is to put them on their heels, and it puts him in a better negotiating position when it comes to leveling the playing field on the trading aspect of it, and, you know, striking them with some tariffs and things like that, and letting them know that, hey, you're just not that fucking cool. You got a nice piece of land, and I like your people. But you as Canadian government, you just, you know, I mean, you're just whatever, dude. You could be a state. You're not really a country. You haven't done anything to suggest that. And that's what he's doing. He's putting them on their heels. Now with Greenland, I think he's actually considering that, and I think that would be a fantastic move. You know, if that was a part of the United States, hell, I'd go up there to Greenland, check it out. You know, that'd be cool. We go up there and check it out, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. 51st state, 52nd state. Maybe it's the 53rd. Who knows?
Who knows?
That's right. Skane says, good luck. They have been fighting for centuries over there. Yeah, and they're going to continue to do that. Whether or not our presence over in the Gaza Strip provides some level of stability moving forward, again, I could be completely wrong, but I just don't see it, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
I don't know if he'll actually.
Right. So I mentioned earlier that because somebody had brought up, I think it was Hogs, you brought up that they were trying to Newsom proof something, right? Well, they're trying to Trump proof, and this is coming from our illustrious governor, Gavin Newsom, who you think nobody likes, but there's a lot of people that like him. This is from the California Globe.
I think they're foolish.
Yeah. And basically it says that California Governor Gavin Newsom signed legislation authorizing $50 million legal slush fund to Trump-proof the state. And if I pan down here, this is what he signed as of February 7th, 2025 from the office of Governor Gavin Newsom. It says, to the members of the California State Senate, I am signing Senate Bill X12, which will bolster funding for legal services programs that are vital to safeguarding the civil rights of California's most vulnerable residents, including people with disabilities, youth who are homeless, victims of human trafficking and wage theft, people facing unlawful evictions, immigrants, and more. Further goes on to state that none of the funding in this bill is intended to be used for immigration-related legal services for non-citizens convicted of serious or violent felonies. To the extent further clarification is necessary, I encourage the legislature to pass subsequent legislation providing that this funding is to be allocated consistent with the restrictions set forth in blah, 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 blah. Okay. And so it's interesting because the second portion of this SB 1-2 is the $25 million that's set aside for legal assistance for California and immigrant communities, right? So what that's saying is that they're going to support and continue to support illegal aliens. Because if you were a California, if you're a Californian, if you're a citizen, that should be all you need to say. You don't need to say anything about immigrant communities. What is an immigrant community? It's illegal aliens, people who don't have the right to be here legally. So that's what they're doing is they're setting aside $25 million for that. And then the upper 25 million was to be set aside for making sure that the funding isn't cut off for the people who are affected by the California wildfires, right? And so basically, Trump is trying to get Newsom to comply with certain things that he wants. And I think Trump is going to insist or to cut off funding that was put forth by Sleepy Joe. Remember Sleepy Joe said, oh, you're going to have federal funding for the rebuilding of these communities for 180 days after he leaves office for 6 months. So I'm sure that discussion was had on the tarmac when you see this picture here. Like, hey, motherfucker, I don't like you, you son of a bitch. Yeah, they're trying to make nice there for the photo op, but I guarantee you these people don't like each other. And so that's what our governor is more concerned about, is setting aside millions of dollars for illegal aliens. Right? Pretty interesting. There was some wording in there basically saying that it's not for non-citizens convicted of a serious or violent felonies. Well, that makes sense. But how about not non-citizens?
How about just for non-citizens or illegal aliens?
Yeah, not setting anything aside for non-citizens in general, but that's not what this is for. Anywho.
And then who gets to determine? I mean, if we're not arresting any of them.
Right. Yeah. Let me see if I can get caught up here. Okay. Oh, yeah, that's right. That's a great game, Gaines. Says, haven't you ever played Risk? Greenland would actually be pretty strategic. Yeah, point taken. That was a great game. I remember that when I was a kid. You remember playing Risk?
I don't know if I've ever played it.
It was good, man. It was a very strategic, like you got armies and you got to like put them on the map and stuff. I can't remember how it was played, but I do remember the little pieces that they had. And then you could get like a one piece, and that was like one army. And then you get a bigger piece. It was like 10 armies or whatever, It's pretty cool. Bringing back memories here. Gen X in the house.
I can remember Battleship.
Yeah, all those games were cool.
You sunk my battleship.
Let's see here. My glasses are I can't read this good. Hold on a second. Let me see what TRC says.
So that is a stipend of money.
That
Nothing more.
Yeah, that is to siphon money, nothing more, in my humble opinion, because no money being used for illegal aliens will never hold up in court if they did try to use it. It violates federal law, but they will spend the money. Yeah, I'm interested to see what's going to happen as these governors and these elected officials continue to defy federal law. I'm really interested to see how that's going to progress. They'll probably be sued first, and then I don't know if they're going to be arrested or what's going to take shape. But there's going to be some drama forthcoming because again, the left is in disarray, and they are trying to grasp at straws, and they're going back to the same playbook, which is anger and incitement, rather than coming up with fresh and new ideas that people in this country are actually in favor of, right? Mm-hmm. They're just going to the same old playbook. And I think that's very destructive. It says, we played Risk as adults. It is a very long game. I do recall that. It's like, man, we got to put this thing down. I'm getting tired. It's a game that just keeps going on and on. Yeah. You don't remember that, huh? Risk?
I don't.
Yeah.
I'm too old.
No, it's a game that's been around for a while. It's not a new game. It's just, you probably didn't have it. Getting back to what I was saying about them not having any real new ideas. I think what they're doing is they're really trying to get people whipped up. They don't actually like democracy. They don't like when the people get a chance to speak and to vote their candidate into office. They say that they do, but then they do whatever they can do to kind of whip people into a frenzy. And I have concern about that, because what that leads to, as you might recall, we've had several crazy people that have come out and tried to assassinate Donald Trump. And a lot of that's due to the rhetoric that Democrats are very familiar with, which is calling people existential threats, calling the other side actually what they're doing, calling people insurrectionists when they're just trying to be respectful of, having a voice. Mm-hmm. They don't really do the same thing. They get out there in front of the cameras and they try to get people whipped into this frenzy.
It's called a temper tantrum.
Yeah. And so now you have people that are trying to clean up the government, but you have a lot of opposition, and then they're trying to get people into the streets. And I want you to listen to this. It sounds very familiar to what we've heard in the past, but this is just this week.
A man worth over $400 billion is going to decide what happens with my grandma's Social Security check.
No one elected Elon Musk to nothing. And yet, Elon Musk is seizing the power that belongs to the American people. We are here to fight back.
When we open up the Senate every single morning, we don't pledge allegiance to the billionaires. We don't pledge allegiance to Elon Musk. We don't pledge allegiance to the creepy 22-year-olds working for Elon Musk. We pledge allegiance to the United States of America. And so I want to make sure that my mother gets her Social Security check, not because she pledges allegiance to Elon, but because she pledges allegiance to the United States of America.
This is the most corrupt bargain we've ever seen in American history. Elon Musk gives $250 million to elect Donald Trump, and Donald Trump turns over the keys to the United States government to Elon Musk and his billionaire friends and his cronies. Are we going to let that stand? No! Hell no, we're not going to let that stand.
We know who we work for. We know that we work for the American people. And what we're not going to do is stand around while they pull this bullshit that they're trying to pull right now. We are going to be in your face. We are going to be on your ass. And we are going to make sure, you understand what democracy looks like. And this ain't it.
So how soon is it before we start seeing, people burning shit down and throwing bricks through store windows with that type of talk? I don't recall the Tea Party doing that. And if they did, I certainly don't think that they would have gotten a pass in the media. So that's why I'm bringing it to your attention now, because, this is a tired old playbook from angry Democrats that are being called out. They're part of the problem. They're the swamp. But yet you have to understand that there's people that vote for those folks. They're playing to their base. There's a lot of people that are still butthurt that the convicted felon, Donald Trump, is in the White House. There's people that are still just can't believe it. So much to the point that some of them have decided to leave the country. Basically take all their toys out of the sandbox and fucking leave.
I say go.
I say go too. If you don't like it here or this doesn't suit you, there's a lot of different places you can go. I'm not going to try to stop you and stand in your way. I would prefer you do that than do what these people are doing, which is incitement. They're trying to get people in the streets. We're going to fight. We're going to get in your face. We're going to do all these things. Pretty soon it's going to get amplified and it's going to get taken to the next level. They're a little bit tempered right now because, again, they're still on their heels. It's only been 3 weeks. They just can't believe what's actually taking place right now. They can't believe that there's a new fucking thing every 3 hours. There's something new thing that Trump's doing. They don't even have a chance to catch their breath from what just happened 3 hours ago and now something else they need to draw their attention to. But what you see them very much doing right now is they could give two shits about anything else that Trump has done, but what they're really pissed off about is they're really pissed off about the fact that he's going after the swamp. He's going after their slush fund. He's going after the government. He's highlighting and saying, hey, look over here. Look what these people have been doing to you for years. They've been ripping you off. We're not only being ripped off from China, from Mexico, from Canada, from all these other countries that have been taking advantage of us. The people that supposedly represent you are also taking advantage of you as the American people. But yet they want more of your tax paying. They want more of a percentage of your money. For what?
I'd like to hear you say China again.
China. China. I'm getting fired up. But you heard those people. They said they were saying that, he's going to take it away from Granny. Granny's not going to get their Social Security. Trump has explicitly said, hey, we're not taking that away from anybody. We're not, if you're receiving those payments, those aren't payments that are being stopped.
I think he even said that he's not even going to take taxes out of those.
Yeah, well, that's, I think, what he would like to do. But see, that's another sacred cow that these bastards, they're probably going to this is crazy. He's talking about cutting taxes. The fact is if he cuts all this bullshit that goes to all these other countries, guess what? We wouldn't have to pay taxes. If Trump's able to do what he wants to do with tariffs, we wouldn't have to pay taxes. They could abolish the fucking Federal Reserve. They could get rid of the IRS. These are all things that could happen if government was reined back in. But government is clearly the fuck out of control. They've way overstepped their bounds. President McKinley. Was it McKinley? I think. Yeah, I think it was McKinley. He was a big tariff guy. That's one of the reasons why Trump likes him so much. That's how we used to get our money, was through tariffs. Mm-hmm. Before the income taxes were brought in 1913. We didn't have the IRS. People weren't taxed in that way. How do you think we got the things we had in government? It was because of tariffs. And so he's just going back to the old playbook that used to work. But we've gotten so far away from that all they want to do is bleed more from you and me and everybody else that pays taxes. And then they turn around and give the shit to people that don't pay taxes, like illegal aliens. It's amazing to me. And I think that, the more that is uncovered, the further that they get down the road, it's going to be just better for this country overall, because we're basically taking this virus, which is the Democrat Party and the establishment on both sides. Republicans, they can be thrown in there too, for Christ's sake. They're no better in a lot of respects. Mitch McConnell's and Lindsey Graham's and all these people that have lined their pockets, they're no better. They're a virus. And so what they're doing, what viruses do, is they try to want to replicate. And when they're attacked, what do? They bring in the forces. They bring in white blood cells. And so that's what they're doing right now, is they're trying to bring in white blood cells to take on this attack of Donald Trump and Elon Musk. And it's an interesting thing to see, but understand that the swamp, it's a virus, because all it wants to do is replicate and infect more. That's what we have here.
Well, maybe Trump's their immunization.
I guess. Let's see here. Yeah. The last time you heard them cutting Social Security. Yeah, it's not anything that they've really firmly discussed. That's the rhetoric that's out there. They're trying to get Granny worked up. Oh, they're going to take Granny's medication and they're going to kick her down the stairs. That's the playbook for the Democrats. Next they'll be talking about what they're going to do to black people. Oh, they're going to string you up in a tree. Oh, they're going to do this because of your whatever. They're all about fucking groups, man. They don't ever just say, hey, everybody's an American, and you go based on what you contribute and what your merit is. They don't do that. It's because they're leeches and they're sick people. Mm-hmm. And I'm willing to call them out on it. And there's a lot of people that are also willing to call them out on it.
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Do you support the Democrat Party?
I do not.
Do you support?
But I also think that there's a lot of fraud and waste in the Republican Party as well.
100% agree with you. 100% agree. Social justice for your wallet. Yeah. Just like him. Then it came out with all the fraud they did. Yeah. Let's see here.
It's biting them in the butt. They don't like it.
Yep. It says, well, they aren't protesting about our money. They're protesting about their money. Mm-hmm. Yes, you're exactly right, Skanes. You're exactly right. Let me say this. I've got a did you know, since we were just talking about that and these angry Democrats and, what this could possibly lead to. Did you know that since the office was established, the office of the President of the United States of America, it was established in 1789. And since that time, we've had 45 individuals that have served as President of the United States. Of these 45, 8 have died in office. 4 were assassinated and 4 died of natural causes. And so let me pull this up on the screen here.
What's up, big girl? Did you come to say hello to everybody?
So if you look at this right here, you've got all of these 8 men. You've got William Henry Harrison, Zachary Taylor, Abraham Lincoln, who was the first to get shot, and he was shot and killed by John Wilkes Booth, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then you had James A. Garfield, and Garfield was shot, and he wound up surviving for an additional 79 days before he died on September 19th in 1881. And then you had William McKinley, who was shot by some dude and died 8 days later. And the reason why those dudes died is because of like sepsis. They died from infection and complications thereof, dirty equipment and stuff like that back in the day.
Mm-hmm.
And both Garfield and William McKinley were shot and killed. And then the others, Harding and Franklin Roosevelt died in office. And then JFK, he had his fucking cap peeled by a guy with a rifle and was shot and killed. And we still don't know, the outcome of all of that, even though there's been plenty of speculation as to suggest that maybe that was an inside job. And so, it's kind of an interesting little factoid. And it's one that I hope we don't have to add to this year, but it does cause me a lot of concern when I hear angry Democrats out there whipping up people to do things that we really shouldn't be doing. There's a way that they can go about trying to get some resolve without getting out and being hysterical and whipping up the fucking crowd. But that's clearly what that's designed to do, is to incite people into action, get out there and fight. What that does is it gives people the wrong impression about how to resolve the issues.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Anytime we've had consequential presidents that have been, either vehemently anti-establishment, like maybe wanting to free the slaves or something like that, we have angry Democrats that come out in a weird way and to try to get them to stop doing what they're doing. And so, Trump has got a lot of opposition, obviously, from both sides. And so it would not surprise me to see, something happen to him. And I would hope that that wouldn't be the case, but he's a very visible person. He's not really afraid of that. He doesn't, give the indication that he's afraid of that.
Yeah, I wouldn't say that he's not afraid of it, but he's not going to show that he's afraid of it.
Yeah, there's probably truth, to some extent on both ends of that,
And that's why I think he continues to be as visible as he is, because if he didn't, it would show weakness.
Right. That's true. Yeah, he's interesting guy. I'll leave you guys with this. I've got a couple of quotes, and I liked every one of these quotes that I pulled up from this person. And it's interesting. I could contrast this with the quotes that I pulled up from Joe Biden, because it comes from the same website. It's basically the top 25 quotes from, any individual you pull up. And as I said, when I did this with Trump and Biden, Biden's quotes were like, just about everyone made him really look quite bad. Either sounding like a complete dumbass, sounding like a racist, or just an insider that doesn't give a damn about anybody else. Every one of these quotes that I read was just like, wow, there's a lot of wisdom in these quotes. And so I will read these to you, and they are from Elon Musk. And the first one says, "Some people don't like change, but you need to embrace change if the alternative is disaster." And I think there's a lot of wisdom in that when you apply that to what they're actually doing within our federal government right now. There's a lot of people, the virus that I mentioned earlier, the swamp, however you want to refer to the establishment, they don't like change, but you actually do need to embrace change if the alternative to that change is disaster. And clearly we are on a path of, or we were on a path that nobody was interested on either side, to your point, Rebecca, that the Republicans and the Democrats haven't been doing their job well enough and haven't been good stewards of the American tax-paying dollars, right?
Mm-hmm.
So therefore, all they want to do is squeeze more from the people that are paying the taxes, rather than saying, hey, let's pull back all this other bullshit, and maybe we don't have to tax people so much. And that's what we have right now with Elon Musk
And Trump.
And all the people that are surrounding this administration. Really, I think that there's just such a fervor and a desire for that to happen within this country. And I'm very optimistic, but I'm cautiously optimistic because of all of the things we've already talked about. Right.
Yeah. Well, I think Trump realizes that he only has 4 years and he's got a lot to cover.
Yeah, that's true. And now here's this last quote. And I think this one is full of wisdom, and it's tied right into what we've just been talking about. Again, this is from Elon Musk. It says, funded by the government just means funded by the people. Government, by the way, has no money. It only takes money from the people. Sometimes people forget that that's really what occurs. And I mean, how can you dispute that?
It's exactly what happens.
Yeah, the government is funded by taking from the people.
Mm-hmm.
Right? They don't really produce anything.
Right. Well, one of the things that's always been a mind blower to me. I mean, I understand why it's happening, but you have taxes taken out of your paycheck.
Mm-hmm.
And that should be that at the end of the year. But the fact that you have to go in and you have to do your income tax,
mm-hmm.
and a lot of times you're paying more.
Yeah. And
why doesn't it balance out? To me, it was like, it should balance out. You've been taking money from me for the last 12 months.
Right. Well, it's like there's like all these different taxes that are on the same piece of, on the same real estate as far as the dollar is concerned.
Well, if they didn't figure it out, that's their bad, not mine.
I know. And then you die what you have, then it's taxed again, and property taxes, and there's all these other kind of taxes, income tax, and sales tax, and it goes on and on.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Trump realizes that he would like to see people keep more of their money, but one of the ways that he's going to be able to do that is by cutting from the virus, and the virus is fighting back at this point.
Mm-hmm.
They're really not digging the fact that they've been challenged, right? This was quite a fucking deal that they had going on for many years. And now it's like, oh, you're upsetting the apple cart. We don't like this, right? So anywho, I think that's about all we have for you tonight, guys. I really appreciate you guys coming and hanging out with us for a little bit. It was fun. Had a few things to talk about. I kind of threw that together in about a half an hour, just pulled up some clips, and just what's on our mind here tonight. And we'll see what we can come up with again next week. But try to go out and be better than you were today. Try to do that tomorrow and be better moving forward, right?
Yep. Always look at the positive. There's always positive and negative, so always look at the positive. Yeah, I try to do that. Sometimes she has to rein me in because I get, a little off the deep end sometimes, but the yin and the yang of Porterhouse and Teal. Thanks again for joining us, guys, and we will see you next week. Have a great evening.